Imagine that among us today walk the descendants of Christ. This is the explosive secret at the heart of Dan Brown's novel, The Da Vinci Code.
I don't ask you to pat me on the back. I ask you to look at what I've done and prove me wrong. They don't like people like me questioning what they have been taught and what they continue to teach.
Because they bring fresh, new insights.
The Rennes le Chateau story is the origin both of the Da Vinci Code and the work that I'm doing. They both started from the same place.
"2,000 years ago, 13 people sat down to eat what would become the most famous meal in history. On the table was a dish of bread and a goblet of wine. Before they started eating, one of their number announced that that very evening he would be betrayed by one of his friends, and that betrayal would lead to his death. Then he passed the bread to his shocked companions, and they each took a piece. He offered them the goblet, and they had a sip of wine. 'Do this,' he said, 'in remembrance of me.'" The speaker was, of course, Jesus Christ, the occasion, the Last Supper, the event on which the Christian communion is based. It's also the event at the heart of any quest for the Holy Grail, because the Grail is the chalice from which the disciples sipped that night. Or is it?
Could it instead be something much more mysterious? Is the true nature of the Grail encoded in this picture of the Last Supper? Is this disciple a woman?
Is Leonardo da Vinci trying to reveal an important secret that history has forgotten or even suppressed? The answer to all these questions is yes, according to this book, which has taken the world by storm. It's a thriller called The Da Vinci Code, and it's a modern-day quest for the Holy Grail. Its author, Dan Brown, is in no doubt at all that the Grail exists. But for him, it's not a cup, it's a secret. A 2,000-year-old secret. In fact, the most important secret in the history of the Western world.
The most important fact is that the Holy Grail is not what people think it is. That is part of the theme of the book. The Holy Grail is not a cup. It is something far more powerful.
But the Catholic Church suppressed the truth.
If the Da Vinci Code's right, the repercussions are huge.
So the Grail is a cup after all. Unfortunately, only in a medieval novel. It's not real. At least that's what everybody thought until the mid-1980s. And then something rather extraordinary happened.
In 1982, a very unusual book called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail was published. It was marketed as history, but was written like a thriller and sold like a thriller. And it changed everything.
Why? Because it overturned the 800-year-old theory that the Grail was a cup containing the blood of Jesus Christ, and instead came up with something much more radical, that the Grail was the secret bloodline of Jesus Christ.
Surprisingly, the new theory introduced a raft of new characters. Mary Magdalene, an order of Christian soldiers called the Knights Templar, a mysterious organization called the Priory of Sion, and the next stop on my quest, a bunch of French heretics called the Cathars. Were they the guardians of the Holy Grail? They were, according to the new theory, which claims they hid it in this fortress.
You are my strong tower, shelter over me.
My quest for the Holy Grail is taking me to the heart of a book called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and to the heart of Grail country. Here, in an area between the Spanish border and Marseille, the book's authors discovered a remarkable series of historical coincidences which appeared to lead them to the Grail.
There seemed to be something going on. There was a lot of smoke. I wanted to find out whether there was any fire behind that smoke.
A lot of the smoke appeared to surround a real heretical sect called the Cathars, who were active in southern France in the early Middle Ages, and who, according to local tradition, had hidden the Holy Grail in the mountains of Languedoc.
Well, this looks like it, doesn't it? I'm told that through here there's actually some cave paintings on the wall of the cave. Oh, this looks like something, doesn't it? There's clearly a sword there. You can see that very clearly, can't you? And a cross there. And there's more crosses on the other side going down here. Up here, there seems to be, I'm not sure if you can see that, but sort of lance. And there's this big square thing here, like a casket or a book.
The most important fact is that the Holy Grail is not what people think it is. That is part of the theme of the book. The Holy Grail is not a cup. It is something far more powerful.
Can you see this round thing here with bits sticking out like an old-fashioned naval mine or a conker or something? They reckon that could be a chalice. But a lot of people believe that these are clues left behind by the Cathars, a kind of code to show that the real Grail, whatever it was safely in their possession.
It seems as though they knew the truth, or some of the truth, about Jesus as a man.
The event at the heart of this and many other theories linking the Cathars to the Holy Grail occurred in 1244. It happened at the end of a 6-month siege here at Montségur in the Pyrenees. The Cathars were making their final stand against the church-backed crusade that had all but destroyed them.
By March 1244, both sides knew that the game was up. The attackers gave the defenders a final ultimatum. Either surrender the castle and recant your heresy, in which case you'll get away with a light penance, or if you don't, we'll storm the castle and kill you. The Cathars stayed put for 14 days. They celebrated Easter, and then they simply swung open the castle doors and walked out.
Soldiers and sympathisers were released with a penance, and all the Cathar priests, or perfects, were burned at the stake. Well, perhaps not quite all.
The historical records tell us that the night before the ultimatum expired, four perfecti sneaked out of the castle, down the hill, through the enemy lines, and got away to safety. And they were carrying something. And it's that mysterious cargo that's attracted the Grail hunters.
Now, this can't have been any kind of treasure to do with gold and jewels, because we know that the physical treasure, the gold and jewels, was taken out several months earlier. So we have to ask the question, what could 4 people carry down ropes with this descent down cliffs? And we suggest in our book that they're carrying documents.
According to the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, the documents apparently contained important secrets the Cathars wanted to keep from the Church, including perhaps the secret of the Holy Bloodline. But historians are unimpressed by this intriguing hypothesis.
There isn't any evidence, is there, that the Cathars were in possession of any kind of secret?
What sort of secrets did you have in mind? The Inquisition...
The Catholic Church
went to enormous effort to wipe them out. That in itself means they must have been in possession of something that the Inquisition didn't want. Either secrets of how to contact divinity directly, or secrets about Jesus, or perhaps secrets about the line of David running through the south of France. Remember, this was in the same area that the Cathars were at their strongest.
There's another unusual medieval organisation with its roots in Grail country. Like the Cathars, the Knights Templar were associated with the possession of treasure. They were accused of heresy and destroyed by the Church. But did they also discover and protect the Holy Grail?
Well, first of all, we can assume, I think, quite with a good deal of probability, that quite a few people at that time who went to the Holy Land were already, at least to some degree, dissatisfied with the existing Orthodox paradigm of the Christian religion. In fact, some of them probably went on the crusade precisely because they wanted to discover something other. They went there because they felt, well, maybe if we go to the geographical location where all of this really happened, maybe we will discover the true Christianity. It was not, Christianity was not a very exciting religion in the Middle Ages. And so I think quite a few people who went there were ready for an alternative view. And it would seem that probably some of the Templars did receive a transmission of that sort. And the accusations then subsequently in the 1300s were made against the Templars that they had secretly practiced certain heresies. Among some of these accusations we definitely find elements that could very well have been derived from Mandean or related sources.
The Catholic Church.
So I think it's very, very likely that the Templars absorbed certain teachings and perhaps certain ceremonial practices from the Mandeans, which they brought back to Europe, and which they kept within an inner circle, obviously, because it was dangerous to do otherwise, and eventually they were found out, and when there were additional reasons why the King of France and the Pope wanted to do away with the Templars, then these were used as an excuse. See, they are heretics.